Hey guys and gals, Juan here with yet another video first impressions for a phone that we'll be reviewing on yourtechreport.com. Today we're going to be talking about the Motorola Defy XT. Now, the Motorola Defy has been around for a really long time, but what's neat about this Defy is that it's on a service called Republic Wireless. And so Republic Wireless is a hybrid cell phone carrier. They're coming in for a budget priced service and they're priced very aggressively. A plan on Republic Wireless is going to be $19 a month. That's right, $19 a month. But they are going to ask you to change your behavior just a little bit on how you use your smartphone to get down to a plan that cheap. And so the way that they make their plans that inexpensive, when you're out and about, you're going to be taking calls on Sprint's 3G network. So their CDMA network. There's no LTE here. There's no WiMAX here. It's just going to be 3G, but it's unlimited. It's unlimited calling. It's unlimited data, which is phenomenal for $19 a month. But when you're in range of Wi-Fi, a Wi-Fi spot that you sign into and that you trust, they're going to ask that you make calls over Wi-Fi. So when I'm at home, I log into my Wi-Fi and a little icon on the screen pops up, and now I'm making calls over Wi-Fi instead of using Sprint's network. And this balance, they say, is what allows them to get to a very inexpensive plan. The entire company has sort of put themselves into an interesting position. This is a very inexpensive phone. You buy the phone outright. There is no contract. There is nothing that you sign. You're not locked in for 2 years. You're going to spend $250 on this phone, but then you own it. It's yours. That's done. There are no early termination fees. If you decide that you want to leave Republic Wireless after a year and go to a different carrier and get a different phone, that's one of the most inexpensive smart computing devices that you can pick up at this moment. Even moving into a nicer phone like a Nexus 4 means you're going to be spending probably $50 to $100 more just to pick up the device, and then you have to take it to a carrier, which is going to be more expensive. So even if you were to take a Nexus 4 and then activate it on a service like Straight Talk, the phone's going to be $100 more, and you're going to be spending more than twice as much per month just for the service. All right, guys, so this is the Motorola Defy XT. It's a cute little old school moto. It doesn't follow any of the newer Motorola design conventions. No, the rounded corners here. This sort of voice microphone grill down here at the bottom can get kind of gunky. I don't necessarily love that. But we've got a really tiny screened device, even compared to some other small screen devices like the Samsung Odyssey. You can see here, let me turn the screens on so you can actually see the lights that I've got in here, which sort of blow out the screens. Oh, no, turn back on, Motorola. There we go. So you can see that's a pretty small screen, as this is a 3.8-inch job. This is probably closer to a 3.5-inch diagonal. So pulling up the settings, we can go to About Phone, and there it is, Android 2.3.7. I haven't seen that in a while. So this is not going to be a premier smartphoning experience, but that's not really important. What's important is the fact that you're getting a very capable device which makes very good calls and has access to apps and data services for $19 a month. And yeah, the way that they do that is through, this little guy right here is already giving us a tooltip about offloading calls. And when the Republic Wireless icon at the top of the screen is green, Wi-Fi calling is enabled. And that's what this little guy is right there. You can see that little green chevron-y, half-smile facey thing right there is letting us know that I'm connected to Wi-Fi and I'm getting a good enough signal to make phone calls, which is pretty cool, actually. Going through, you can feel that sort of slight hesitation that happens with gingerbread-style devices. It's only gonna be a bummer. And let's be serious. When we're talking about someone who needs some kind of smartphone, but they can't afford a top-of-the-line device or they can't afford a top-of-the-line service, these kinds of just slight hesitations are only going to be a bummer for people that have already used the cream of the crop, the best of the best Nexus, Galaxy S3, 1X devices, and then come back to this and go, oh, well, it's a little bit laggy. those of you who are wanting to shop their first phone or shopping a phone for a kid, they're not going to know that this isn't quite as fast. Well, not until their friends like shove an iPhone in their face and say, "But look how smooth it is." So walking around the device, we've got a little volume rocker here on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, we've got a covered port for the micro USB connector there. On the top, we've got a covered port for the headphone jack right there. Let me go and put that back in place. Power button, and then that's about it. On the back, we've got a little 5-megapixel shooter and this little lock switch right here. And if you're not familiar with the Defy series, which I really, really wish Motorola would update, because the original Motorola Defy, for its time, was one of my favorite phones. When this is locked in place, you hit that switch and you lock it, this phone is partially waterproofed. It won't be as rugged as a phone like the Rugby Pro will be, but it will handily survive spills and bumps and bruises and a little, dropping and knocking and stuff like that. You won't wreck this phone by spilling something on it, and it could probably be submerged if you instantly pulled it back out of the water with few ill effects. That's actually kind of a nice little touch, and especially if you're talking about a kid's first phone, they'll be learning how to use a phone on a device that can take a little abuse, some bumps, some bruises, some spills, and you don't have to worry about replacing it the second that they do anything that might damage it. So we can pop this little door here, and I really need to give myself a manicure, and that's where we've got a little memory card. It does come with a 4 GB card, which isn't too shabby for a device this inexpensive, and the battery is a 1650 milliamp hour. That's what it says, 1650 milliamp hour battery. I was really impressed with battery life. The nice thing about having a tiny screen on a low power processor is if you're not trying to run the phone too hard, then you actually get really decent battery life, and the standby times on this phone are pretty remarkable too. So you can expect that this phone will be a make it to dinner time kind of phone. And then all of this you can see is sort of enclosed in this sort of rigid. You can see these like sort of cutaways, and how those cutaways line up with the back of the case, and that's what helps waterproof the phone. I should say make the phone a bit more water resistant. The Defy XT is not going to be a proper waterproof phone, but like I said, it's going to be far more rugged at taking spills and the occasional dunking into whatever you might accidentally dunk your phone into. What's kind of interesting about going back to a small phone is you do sort of take for granted ergonomics. Like when you've got something even like a Galaxy Nexus, and when you're holding it in one hand and you can't quite reach the bottom corner for where the back button would be, going back to this littler phone means that a lot of these things become much easier. I don't like the keyboards on smaller phones. I think they're a little too tiny to get a lot of work done, but when you just need to pound out a quick text or a quick email reply, they'll still get the job done. They'll still be just fine. But then also, according to one company, and I can't remember what that company's name was, but they made a really big deal about going from here to here and from here to here. So if you're going to make a concession on screen size, I'm sorry, it's just the silliest commercial I've ever seen. Anytime I get a small screen device, I'm going to make fun of it. But when you're looking at 4.7, 4.8 inch phone, if you have to make a concession on a smaller screen device, at least that concession comes with the ergonomic benefit of being able to use that phone one-handed.
You might be worried about what the call quality over Wi-Fi might sound like. Here's a sample of me actually making a phone call over Wi-Fi. And you can hear it sounds pretty good. It doesn't actually sound that much different than any of the calls that I've taken over Skype or Google Voice through a web browser. In fact, it's kind of hard to tell the difference between calls over Wi-Fi and calls over most cell phone networks. The one issue I've run into with Republic Wireless's setup, the phone actually does a pretty good job of trying to hand off a call whenever you leave Wi-Fi. So if I start a call on Wi-Fi, the phone will try to connect to a 3G cell network to keep the call going. Now, for most people, if you live in a house or in an area with good coverage, that handoff should happen seamlessly, should happen very smooth. Unfortunately, in my apartment complex, there are a lot of hallways and stairwells that I have to go through to leave my apartment. So if I make a phone call in my apartment and then try to leave my apartment, there are a couple spots where the phone just struggles to maintain a signal, and it'll probably end up dropping the call. In the event that that happens, the phone will actually ring you back and ring back the person that you were calling to try and continue the conversation. And that actually works very, very well. It's an appreciated feature so that you don't just drop the call like you might if you were just in poor coverage on a traditional smartphone, but it can still be something of a bummer if you do that a lot, where if you start a call in your apartment and then have to leave suddenly, that's like normal behavior for you, then this can sometimes be a frustrating dance.
So the only thing that I really have to knock this phone for, the thing that actually bothered me the first time I used it, the shutter sound for the camera sounds ill. It sounds sick. It sounds like the camera is vomiting or is in pain. Here, let's just take a picture of my horrible little fold-out TV dinner tray here, and we're gonna hit that. It's gonna focus. Oh, that's so awful. Hold on, let me get it closer to the microphone. And we're gonna take another picture here. Oh, that just sounds like a dying old film camera from the 70s. It's one of the worst sound effects for a camera I think I've ever heard, and I don't know what Motorola was thinking when that's what they designed for this phone. While the phone might not be the most exciting proposition, the combination of phone price plus service price is a very compelling solution for a lot of people out there who might be looking at some kind of smartphone computing solution, but don't want to break the bank doing it. And thankfully, having a partially ruggedized device also makes this an interesting solution for maybe giving a kid their first smartphone. If you can't take care of a Motorola Defy, then you're not ready for a nicer phone on a nicer plan later on. Or if you're teaching your kids about responsibility and how much things cost, they have to front the bill themselves. And $20 a month, $19 a month isn't an insurmountable way for them to learn how smartphones work and how expensive they can be, especially when they decide they want to move on from this phone and they're looking at getting a new phone. All of a sudden they're confronted with how expensive these devices and these services can be. So after we've had just a little bit more time to collect some photos and video samples for you too, I'll be writing out a full review of the Motorola Defy XT on yourtechreport.com. So definitely check that out. I'll have some interesting notes to share with you guys because this is unlike any other phone that I've used before. Just the service is very compelling. Like I said before, it offers some interesting solutions for people who are looking for what Republic Wireless has to offer. So guys, I'm Juan. This is the Motorola Defy XT on Republic Wireless, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.